So Governor Whitmer, as we said, has tied our performance with getting our neighbors vaccinated to how many restrictions are lifted. And there is a 4-step plan here. The goodies with step 1 leads me to believe that maybe the business community had some significant input in the setting of these goals. Rich Studley, who is the president and CEO of the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, at the other end of our line. Rich, good afternoon.
Hi, Guy. Great to talk to you. I agree. I think in the business community we were successful in having a positive impact on the administration. You'll recall last month when we talked about this issue, we had launched in cooperation with local chambers and other business organizations a statewide campaign to end the MIOSHA ban on office work and to reopen Michigan safely. Since then, we've seen a spike in COVID cases. The governor announced today that those numbers are improving and that the state is heading in the right direction. We've also seen other states say it's time to lift the restrictions on the workplace and individual lives, and so other states have taken very deliberate action. And today the governor announced a plan, a 4-step plan, to gradually lift the COVID restrictions from the Department of Health and Human Services and MIOSHA on how your listeners live and work and how employers across the state do business. So we're hopeful. We still need to confirm some of the details, but we're hopeful that this plan is a positive step forward. Time will tell.
Do you think it will be motivational, Rich? I mean, I think Michiganders, people in general, react well when they have a stated goal and when they see the rewards and when there are intermediate rewards that are given to them to reach it. Do you think that's a good strategy?
Yes. The strategy of education, information, and encouragement or incentives or rewards is more respectful of the 10 million people who live in our great state, 4.5 million adults in the workplace. Your listeners are fully capable of making decisions about their daily lives and where they work and how they operate the businesses that they own. And so we think this is a more respectful approach than top-down, one-size-fits-all government mandates. There'll be some questions about the benchmarks or the metrics. Our understanding is that these percentage targets are the percent of those eligible, not the total population, but we'll need to confirm that. Another question that will come up is a question of fairness. If someone has quit work or retired and has left the workforce, should they be counted against those numbers? I think we'll have some employers say these benchmarks are appropriate, but they ought to apply company by company or industry by industry. So we'll see.
So that was my question. For instance, if we don't get, let's say, to 70%, do you think, that we should go micro and say to General Motors, if in a particular factory you've reached 70% or better, then you can be relieved of these restrictions? Is that a better way to do it? Or to say geographically, hey, look, if you're in a certain geographic region, if you haven't made it to that level, that doesn't mean we're going to penalize the rest of the state.
Well, one thing we've learned about COVID is that it is constantly changing, and that's the problem we've experienced with the governor's one-size-fits-all top-down mandates. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see responsible individuals and groups offer that we ought to look regionally. If one part of the state has another spike, but the rest of the state is doing well, then we should consider a more targeted response. I do think it's important to look from industry to industry. Guy, as you know, and as you've informed your listeners, the workplace has not been a major source of COVID, but it's the workplace that's been hit the hardest by the governor's restrictions. And so I do think we'll hear from companies and industries who say, gosh, we're at 80 or 90% of our employees voluntarily agreeing to be vaccinated. Why can't we come back to work now?
Exactly.
Those are the questions I think we'll have as we try to move forward together on this, but we're hopeful. Another problem we have that you're aware of is that sometimes there's a difference between what the governor says and what MIOSHA or the Department of Health and Human Services says. So we'll be watching closely to see if those bureaucrats are in alignment with the governor and the goals that she outlined today, or if they continue to operate on their own.
Before I let you go, obviously we all listened to President Biden last night. One of the most it's almost on the scale of the New Deal. 3 separate plans that he's rolled out, each one costing $2 trillion. Even as our unemployment rate hovers around 6% and our GDP is at 6%. What did you think of how he's paying for them in terms of corporate tax increases, personal income tax increases over $400K, and even capital gains tax increases and estate taxes?
Guy, I think you make a very good point. The plans, the multi-trillion-dollar plans that the president has outlined, were sort of like FDR's New Deal with AOC's Green Deal times 10. And so some of the goals are worthwhile and important. Fixing our infrastructure. Typically, business people think that means roads, bridges, sure, water, sewer, streets. Now we're hearing the Biden-Harris administration redefine infrastructure as education, welfare, social services, things that have not typically been included. And they've also proposed hundreds of billions of dollars in major tax increases on individual and business taxpayers. We see that part of the package as being extremely problematic and could easily have a very negative impact on your listeners and the entire state.
Yeah, the notion that somehow, he says trickle down doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work for people when you raise taxes on those that are wealthy and corporations, because they do. The consequences have a way of trickling down. Rich Studley, always a pleasure to speak with you. Have a great day, and it feels like we're moving the ball forward, and we'll hope it's so.
I sure hope so. We'll keep trying to do everything we can to encourage job creation and economic growth in the state of Michigan.
Well, and vaccination, because apparently that's the path to get to the others. Thanks again. When we come back, and I promise we're going to get to your calls at 4:05, but when